Welcome to NFL Live. Yeah, everybody loves a parade. Look at that championship belt. The 12s out in full force today in Seattle. Sam Darnold hoisting the Lombardi, his head coach. There you go. And hey, just a warning, a few little spicy images and language maybe as we check it out.
I've talked a lot this last week about belief. A lot of people, didn't believe in me, but it didn't matter because the ones that are close believed in me, including y'all. I appreciate y'all so much.
To Ken Walker being the MVP, let's go! Woo! He tried negotiating with me 5 minutes ago. It was really weird.
I appreciate y'all. And, hey, we not done. We coming back next year. Yeah. I'm not leaving. Yeah. Yeah, 12, let's go.
If you got anything to say about my quarterback, you got anything to say about my defense, you got anything to say about my O-line, and you got anything to say about the city of Seattle, I got 2 words for you. Yeah! We here to stay, and we ain't going nowhere.
Classic parade stuff there, right? It just gets no better.
Stole my open.
Oh, my gosh. There you go. Hannah Storm, Mikey T, Field Yates, and Hawk. I love that. Now, the reason that we saw so much of that stuff was out on the screen is a lot of the guys are wearing a T-shirt, picture or an image of Sam Darnold raising the middle finger and smoking a cigarette. So somebody had some fun with that.
To the victor goes the spoils.
Huh?
To the
there
victor
you go.
goes the spoils.
And now we're, of course, going to talk about next year. Yeah, Mikey.
If anybody criticizes the show, we're going to all pull on Ernest Jones, right?
Oh, yeah, we are. That's right, just collectively. So now, as we turn the page, one huge change. Clint Kubiak, he's gone, the offensive coordinator, guy who helped out Sam Darnold so much. What sort of impact do you think that'll have as he goes to be head coach of the Raiders?
It'll definitely have an impact. Obviously, you have that continuity. You have that chemistry with the quarterback, a guy that he's had experience with. But I don't think it'll be so catastrophic that they can't put themselves in position to repeat, right? Because there's a lot of coaches that come from this DNA. And I also think it might be a little bit understated about the effect that Sam Darnold had on this offense. Because this is now an offense he's been in with 3 locations, from San Fran to Minnesota to Seattle. And I think what you saw this season, the way that he operated this offense, was kind of his full maturation into it, understanding all the big-time concepts, understanding what they want to do with it. So I think as long as you have him in place, you'll have a good chance to go find an offensive coordinator that also may have some of that lineage to be able to repeat and keep going.
I think what's really important here is this is now the Seattle Seahawks offense, and this team is loaded. They have a lot of depth in terms of coaching staff. Maybe it's Rick Dennison they promote. But more fundamentally, like when you go back to those great Patriot team guys, Charlie Weiss would graduate, Josh McDaniels would graduate. It was the New England Patriot offense. Dante Scarnecchia was there for a long time in terms of like how they call things on the line. So to me, like now they have to own this and say, hey, this is the Seahawks offense. We have the quarterback, we have the infrastructure, and guys are going to grow, develop. They're going to graduate for all the right reasons, and that's how we have continuity.
Yeah, I mean, and Kubiak gave his assistants so much responsibility, a lot of credit, installed their plays and stuff like that. We'll see what he takes with him.
Right.
Right. We don't know that yet, but maybe they can promote from within. What should their top priority be, Field?
Yeah, I want to congratulate the Seahawks, of course, on their 2nd franchise Super Bowl, but also on enduring or encountering what is the biggest and greatest problem in pro sports. Your team is so good that you got to start paying guys a whole lot more money than they currently make. It's great when you see that the Seahawks have this unbelievable amount of cap space, which on paper you're saying to yourself, are the Super Bowl champs about to go big game hunting? They could, but don't forget about the fact that the best investments are the in-house investments. Guys like Devin Witherspoon, Jackson Smith and Jigba, all extension eligible for the first time this offseason. Don't forget Derek Hall, who was an excellent player in the Super Bowl, also due for an extension, plus some guys that are going to become free agents. And now the Seahawks, given how strong this roster is, are going to be saying every dollar we spent is one less dollar that we're going to have in the future. So while this team could unquestionably, if they desire, go big this offseason and try to take another swing, it might mean that somewhere down the line, a current core player is no longer a part of the Seahawks franchise, which makes me think that John Snyder who has been through this before when he built a Super Bowl winner over a decade ago, is going to be very mindful of the in-house priorities like the guys we just highlighted.
I like that Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah,
Right?
that would
What do you
help,
do with him?
Yeah, so Hannah, I think you have to keep him. One thing, though, that's interesting to me is Kenneth Walker had 31 receptions. Zach Charbonneau only had 20. I think at some point they have to add a running back who could be productive out of the backfield as we talk about the next iteration of the Seahawk offense, which, again, we all believe the fundamentals are there. But I think some of these easier completions for Sam Darnold will go a long way in terms of where he could go next step. That'll help cut down on turnovers. That'll help with completion percentage. And as good as this team was, obviously, as a Super Bowl winner, I think that was a big void in their offense.
Yeah, if you think they had a chip on their shoulder now, they're co-favorites with the Rams. Yeah. So they got to be saying, what's up with this to go to the Super Bowl next year? All right, let's go to Clint Kubiak's new gig. All right, so head coach of the Raiders. One of the immediate concerns there, we've been talking about it, future defensive star Maxx Crosby, obviously the subject of trade rumors for a while. He didn't attend Kubiak's introduction, but apparently they did have coffee. So read into that what you will. And here is Kubiak on Crosby yesterday.
Well, I got to drink a cup of coffee with Max this morning. Loved talking ball with him, and look forward to continuing those conversations. I think he was the first one in here this morning working out, so I fired me up. We want him to be a part of our success going forward. There's no doubt about that.
Well, who wouldn't want him on your team? I mean, come on. Since entering the league as a fourth-round draft pick in 2019, he's been one of the best pass rushers in the sport, leads all players, 360 pressures during that time, also ranking top 10 in the league in sacks, QB hits, and batted passes. All right, so Mikey T, put on your front office hat, you and Tom Brady and everybody else there making decisions. Do you build around Crosby or do you trade him?
I think ideally you'd like to keep him. I remember Coach Parcells when he got to the Jets in 1997 and that team had won one game. He talked about we need hold the fort guys. We want to establish credibility. There's nobody better at that than this guy right here. You heard Coach Kubiak talk about first guy in already in the offseason. So there's no doubt he stands for everything you want to be. But, guys, there are so many holes on this roster from receiver, offensive line, corner. Just pick a spot. If you could get a 1 and a 2, albeit reluctantly, Hannah, I think you got to strongly consider it despite the cultural fit because they have so many needs.
I'm with you, Mike T. I think Crosby is one of my favorite players in the league. I think he's one of the most talented players in the league. But to your point, as an organization, they're kind of in the middle of this reset, right? New head coach. Tom Brady comes on a year ago to take over things. They're going to have a new quarterback at the helm. How far away really are they from truly contending? And if it is far away, to your point about all the holes, you have to leverage the value that you have in Maxx Crosby to try to do your best to continue to build it from the ground up.
I think it's a discussion with Max. If Max wants to stay, he's got a reasonable enough contract that you say, all right, we can continue to build this thing up while also keeping Maxx Crosby. I do want to point to something, though, that I thought about recently. Understanding that Fernando Mendoza is going to be the #1 pick in the draft, and he will be the face of the franchise once he's drafted. If you have been to Allegiant Stadium where the Raiders play their home games in recent years, the entire stadium operation is basically a Maxx Crosby exhibit at a museum, right? We're talking about posters, billboards, on-screen videos. He is the face of this franchise in every way, shape, and form. That if you traded him, like over the past couple of seasons, especially this past year, what are fans getting excited about when they go to games other than, I don't know, like good seats, maybe some good beer? I don't know. This feels like a little bit of a new era that it would be difficult to trade Maxx Crosby. It's difficult to trade star players. We just dealt with this in the NBA trade deadline when Hannah Storm was hosting NBA Today with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Milwaukee. That being said, if ever there was a time where I think both the player will be amenable to it and it will be logical for the franchise, it would be when you've got a head coach who's 38 years old, he's young, a quarterback is going to be his rookie season. Let's build this thing back up organically and repurpose whatever draft picks we get from Maxx Crosby into an offensive line, another pass catcher for Fernando Mendoza, and defensive reinforcement.
And don't you have to repair some of the feelings of everything that went down last season? You still got the same people in the front office. I know you have a new coach.
I think if Max could really influence this, I wouldn't. If Max says, I want to stay, great.
That'd be great for them.
But I think you have a thoughtful conversation about the state of the franchise and being honest about how close they are to competing.
Because we know, as you said, they have the #1 draft pick. There's no mystery there as to who that's going to be. It's Fernando Mendoza, but the cupboard is very bare. So we're going to turn to your latest mock and listen. There's zero mystery here for once, right, Field? So take us through that number one pick.
Yeah,
the
Fernando
Raiders
Mendoza.
select.
Yeah, I'd say, like, to me, the biggest question for Fernando Mendoza to answer right now is, does he want a 3-car garage somewhere in the Henderson, Las Vegas, Nevada area? Like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking as far as, like, amenities for your new home, Fernando? But, yes, he had a remarkable season last year, wire-to-wire, best player in the country, 4-1 passing touchdowns. He is a big, powerful, accurate quarterback who the comp that I used for Mendoza throughout the college football season style-wise was Sam Darnold, who this would be a perfect fit given the Clint Kubiak offense. And I'm not saying the Raiders hired Clint Kubiak because it would be a good fit for Fernando Mendoza, but it certainly helped the cause. And Dan Graziano reported yesterday on NFL Live that part of the conversation with head coaching candidates during the process for the Raiders was, what do you think of and how do you view Fernando Mendoza? There's already an understanding there of how these two could jive.
So here's the big question. Do you play him right away, Mikey T?
I don't. I keep Geno Smith, and I think, Hannah, there has to be a more sensible discussion in the NFL about acquiring a player like Fernando Mendoza, but when do you play him? Because I think some quarterbacks are ruined. We talked about the redemptiveness of Sam Darnold. We've talked about Daniel Jones, Baker Mayfield. Maybe Kyler Murray is the next version of that this year. But to me, if we can't protect Fernando Mendoza as the Raiders, why are we rushing to play him? He's there for at least 5 years, maybe 6 with a franchise tag. Geno Smith, to me, at this point, Hannah, becomes a great bridge quarterback. Hopefully this is your guy for the next 10 years. And look, I'm not saying it's outcome determinative, but Patrick Mahomes sat all but one game his rookie year.
Sure.
He was well, suited to sit behind Alex Smith, learn from Andy Reid. Like, why are we in a rush to play?
Because nobody's really expecting this team to win a lot of games and win them immediately. So maybe in that sense, the pressure's off.
When I think of Mendoza, I think about rookie quarterbacks coming in general. I think everybody is different. Some are ready to play, some aren't. Some of it is the tangible, some of it is the intangibles. When I hear Mendoza, when I watch his decision-making, which is off the charts, his understanding of the big picture, I can't help but feel like he's best suited if you put him in now, even if it's not going to be pretty, because there is a certain amount of reps that it's going to take for you to develop to get to that point. And the longer you prolong it, it's just going to push out that development, that maturation when he's full go and ready to execute to down the line. And so when I look at Mendoza, I think he's tailor-made for this offense. I think he is a quick decision maker. Like I said, he's very accurate. He's athletic, good outside the pocket. I think all those things matching up. He's also played a lot of college football.
Yep.
I think he's ready to go.
Yeah, and with not like top-tier talent necessarily,
there you
he
go.
elevates the people around him.
Yeah, and we saw that especially during his time at Cal. For a couple of seasons out there at Cal, in 2024, he trailed only Shedeur Sanders in terms of sacks taken at the FBS level, just north of 50. Much better offensive line this past year at Indiana, but he also was much more aware within the pocket. I thought he was more urgent and more decisive within the pocket. I don't care how much the Raiders invest this offseason in the offensive line. They can't fix the entirety of it in one fell swoop. It's going to be still a work in progress. I thought we saw some encouraging signs, though, that even if this is not a perfect offensive line, Mendoza can show some of the high-level skills even when playing under some level of duress.
My threshold is pretty fundamental. If he can't protect himself consistently, going back to the 2012 stats at Cal, I would wait. Like, what is the rush? Like, to me, like, as you said earlier, Hannah, like, they're not competing in the AFC West next year. Like, what is the rush? Like, ask David Carr about his rookie year with the Houston Texans.
Come on, we got ticket sales to worry about in Jersey.
Yeah, I worry
about.
I worry about him for the 8-9 years, not the first 8 or 9 weeks.
You're so pragmatic.
Yeah, leave all those Maxx Crosby signs.
Yeah, leave them up.
Leave it in there. Don't plaster Mendoza everywhere.
Seriously.
Take the pressure off.
Their punter's awesome too. Maybe I don't know. AJ Cole stuff. I mean,
see how deep we're going, folks. Yeah. I'm telling you, this is the off season. We are just getting started on NFL Live. We're talking about the Jets and the Giants holding picks number 2 and 5. Field has both of them going for defense. So smart strategy or playing it safe. Our crew weighs in. Plus, the Cowboys are likely to tag George Pickens. Is this, though, maybe a long-term deal, a better move? Mikey T tells us exactly what should be done in Dallas, which is always a really interesting question. Has a new show. It's called Draft Daily. Come your way Monday through Friday at 3 Eastern, starting today. And he also has a new mock draft on ESPN.com. Field, let's talk about number 2, the Jets.
Let's do it. R.L. Reese, the Ohio State pass rusher / stand-up linebacker / do whatever you want with him on defense. He was exceptional this past season, especially early on rushing the passer. Ohio State, as always, graduates 5 stars and turns things over to other 5 stars. Now, he did not have a sack during his final 6 games of the season, but I think if you're the Jets and you're thinking about big picture, we need blue chip difference makers. Who has the highest upside of any defensive prospects in this year's class? It's a good debate between he and David Bailey from Texas Tech. Arvel Reese, though, edges him out for number 2.
Yeah, I love this pick, and I would take him over David Bailey because of his versatility. Guys, you can see him set the edge. You can see him play zone coverage. You can see him rush the quarterback. I'm not saying he's Micah Parsons, but Micah Parsons had a lot of off-the-ball reps at Penn State. The other thing I like, guys, about this pick, he played for Matt Patricia. Matt Patricia brought a pro-style defense to Ohio State, so there's never a sure thing. But the projection of him to play in Aaron Glenn's defense in New York, to me, is a pretty seamless one.
Yeah, you know, when you need everything, every pick is good. It's a high pick.
It's rudimentary, but just get good players if you're the Jets.
Exactly. At number 5, speaking of, John Harbaugh, the Giants. What do you see him doing?
Has any head coach in the history of the NFL had better safety play than John Harbaugh? Between Ed Reed and Kyle Hamilton, a gold jacket player and probably a future gold jacket player, I think the answer is no coach has. So give me Caleb Downs, a safety from Ohio State, an alpha on this defense who played previously under Nick Saban at Alabama. He was an alpha on that defense as well. He's a zero weakness player. If you want to play him up in the box and you want him to act as basically a linebacker, he can. He'll hit you. He'll make you remember that hit as well. You want to play him in center field and let him patrol the back end of your defense. He's got the ball skills, the range, the instincts to do that. The Giants do have good safety depth. Add a dynamic playmaker, though. He's one of the best in the draft.
Let's take a look at their coaching staff because this is new on NFL Live as Giants reporter Jordan Renan is reporting that the G-men are hiring former Titans head coach Brian Callahan as their quarterbacks coach. Now, just check out this staff. We've got 2 former head coaches in Matt Nagy now and Callahan. We've got 2 former offensive coordinators in Greg Roman and Tim Kelly. We have a former college head coach. Remember, Mike Bloomgren was the head coach at Rice University. Mike, this is a lot of cooks in that kitchen. Do you like it?
Actually, I do. And I work with Mike Bloomgren at the Jets. And ironically, he was there with Brian Schottenheimer, Brian Daboll, amongst others. And when you think about him and what, in particular, Greg Roman can do with the run game, I think that's where they're going to focus. And as long as the lines of communication are clearly established, which under John Harbaugh, I can't imagine they won't be, I think you get the best of a lot of different ideas. Obviously, Matt Nagy has the Andy Reid system, and then Brian Callahan has his legendary father, Bill Callahan's thoughts. So I think it can work, but the lines have to be very clear, which I expect they would be.
That's the blue sky version, right? And I agree. It's like you have all this experience in the room. You have Coach Harbaugh, who is an incredible CEO, and this will be his biggest task. Like, are you able to be that CEO head coach that the Giants brought you in for because you have a lot of personalities? The difference between this and when I played in Cleveland in 2014, we had a bunch of future head coaches, right? You have Hafley, you have LaFleur, you have McDaniel, the list goes on as they're coming up. The tough part and the downside that this could go bad is that you have a bunch of people who think we should have done this, we could have done that, I would have done this, right? And because they're former head coaches, coordinators, play callers, if they don't have those clear swim lanes, it could get ugly really, really quickly in a room and just cause turmoil.
This is not to discredit the role that others will have, but to me, the most important relationship in all of this is who is the one that is molding and working with Jackson Dart the most closely day in and day out. Because you think about some of those staffs he played on, like I think it was pretty clear, hey, whether it was whoever was the quarterback, you had a lot of them in Cleveland. We know who is most closely attached to our offensive coordinator. And I assume this would be Matt Nagy, given he is the one who is going to be calling plays. But as long as he and Jackson Dart are in lockstep, this gives me a lot of confidence in what this operation will look like developmentally this upcoming year. Jackson Dart, I think in some ways his rookie season actually got underrated, became overshadowed by some of the turmoil in New York. The fact that he was in and out of the lineup because of the concussion throughout the season and playing early behind Russell Wilson. I think there's a chance that we're talking about Jackson Dart as one of the more dynamic players in all of the NFL next season. It's incumbent upon the coaching staff to get him there.
You know, just real quick to Hawk's point about when there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Carolina, a couple of years ago, you had Frank Wright, Thomas Brown, Josh McCown, and you just hear, like, it just didn't work.
A lot of voices, too many voices for
too
Bryce.
many. Yeah, and hopefully that's something that, the Giants can learn from.
Just can somebody get it in his head? Take care of yourself, all right? Stay out of harm's way. I don't care which one of these guys gets that message.
Jackson is very, very confident in his own belief that, like, he is playing now, or he played this past year like he has always played. Perhaps he was more unlucky than he was sort of careless and reckless this past season. We'll see how it looks this upcoming year, though.
All right. Yes, go ahead.
full circle moment. Joe Girardi came in, Rex Ryan brought him in to teach Mark Sanchez how to slide. So one New York quarterback to another, like slide Jackson, live to fight another day.
So Aaron Boone going to come into training camp
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Whatever
And the Cowboys it's time for Whiteout Wednesday. There's certainly no shortage of whiteout storylines this season. Let's start with George Pickens, who's scheduled to be a free agent, but Shefty is reporting the Cowboys are expected to franchise tag him. Now, they have quite the history of waiting very long into the offseason to sign their stars. In the case of Micah Parsons, of course, they finally traded him. In fact, they didn't sign Zeke, Zach Martin, CeeDee Lamb, or Dak until August or later, just making our summers so painful.
Great for content.
Yeah, they had, all those guys had long holdouts. And Hawk, I guess it's worth noting that Pickens has the same agent as Parsons, so that should be a barrel of fun. How should the Cowboys play this?
They got to figure out how to sign him. I mean, I know you're going to tag him to keep him in the building, but when you put Pickens on this offense, you saw the best version of Dak Prescott. You saw this offense rolling. And let's be clear, coming into the season, nobody expected this Cowboys offense to be as productive as they were, as electric as they were, especially after changing coordinator. Schottenheimer was not a position when he was hired that everyone felt like, oh, this is such a great offense, right? And so when you got Pickens in there, you got the best out of Dak, you got the best out of CD, you have to figure out a way to keep him in there. Again, I don't know if you give him top tier one money, but you got to hope that Pickens wants to stay in Dallas.
What do you think they should?
I mean, it's going to be tough because there's so many other places to fill, and you have to continue to get better at that defensive side of the ball. But if Pickens wants to be in Dallas, Dallas wants Pickens, there has to be a middle ground that they can meet at. That's always going to be the tough part.
You know, it's an absolute no-brainer. They should absolutely keep him because every time they drive to the stadium, without maybe one or two exceptions, there's no two corners that can match up with Lamb and Pickens.
Yeah.
This is actually a much more harder deal to do substantively than Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons was just pay the bill and we're done as the best pass rusher in the league. This is harder, a little bit to Hawk's point, because if I'm George Pickens, 1,400 yards, 9 touchdowns, I want number one money. If I'm Dallas, I'm like, hey, let's hit 100% of a double. Let's give you T. Higgins around 28-ish. That's a big gap. And if I'm George Pickens, why am I taking a backseat to anybody?
Okay, but you leave the agent out of the discussion in a very public way with Micah Parsons. So now how do we walk that back with this negotiation?
George, you want to retire a Dallas Cowboy, and we could set you up not only long-term, short-term, but long-term. Michael Irvin's around, Emmitt Smith's around. You could go down as an all-time great. We have a chance to win a championship here in Dallas with CD and Dak. So got to leave a couple dollars on the table, but we're going to make it worth your while long term.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Talk to my agent.
Yeah.
I want to congratulate the entire production staff here at NFL Live and us. They'll be on the screen during the months of June and July. There's very little to talk about. And let's just be honest. We all know where this is headed, okay?
Yep.
It's going to be a knockdown, drag-out negotiation. There is zero reason to believe it won't be. All of the factors that have been discussed, the Cowboys' history, the super agent David Mulugheta, who's doing this negotiation, the complicating factors that Mike T just laid out. Is George Pickens going to be cool with being the second highest paid wide receiver on his own team when if he were on the open market, he might make a contract or might sign a contract larger than CeeDee Lamb's? Why would he be?
Exactly.
The Cowboys, this is what they have done. And I think the part of it that probably is most unsavory is just that this was a gigantic win for Dallas last offseason, amidst an offseason in which, obviously, many people felt like they had a colossal error in trading away Micah Parsons after not getting that deal done. The George Pickens trade was a heist by Dallas. It becomes even more of a heist if you find a way to extend him for the next 4 seasons and he's a top 10 highest paid wide receiver. But I have zero doubt personally this is headed anywhere other than July 14th or 15th, whatever the franchise tag deadline is to negotiate with players. Adam Schefter pushes out a notification that either says, finally a deal has been done, or the Cowboys and George Pickens could not get a deal done, and next thing you know, we're in the exact same spot that we have been basically every offseason.
It seems so predictable.
Yeah, and Hannah, to Fields made a great point. If they were slightly more proactive and said, hey, we have an agreement in principle with Pittsburgh, we want to talk about an extension, they would have had pennies on the dollar and gotten a reasonable deal done.
Yeah.
And they blew that opportunity, and now they're going to be paying a massive
But that's the
premium.
tough part, and that's the part where it's like, you know, hindsight is 20/20 because he's had such an incredible season.
Yeah.
We weren't all sold that this was going to work.
No.
Right? And the
It's an amazing move.
Steelers aren't in the business of giving away really good receivers. They probably have the biggest tolerance of any organization when it comes to high profile, maybe a little diva, you know, tendencies for a receiver. So to come here, him to jail as much as he has, again, the reports that we've had is he's been a model citizen. Now they're in a situation where it's like, yeah, now you got to pay him. But George Pickens, kudos to him because he's come in here, changed the narrative, and earned that opportunity.
Yeah, third most yards in the NFL behind JSN, behind Puka. This guy's going to want wide receiver one money. Right? I mean, he is there. Everybody wants.
I was going to say.
Let's go. You do too, Hawk.
Man, I can barely catch, and I want wide receiver one money.
We can't negotiate that for you, my friend. All right, on to the draft receivers. Hey, Field, I mean, you've talked about it. This is such a deep class in terms of the receivers. Who's first off the board in your mock that was released?
It's an annual tradition. It's an Ohio State first-round wide receiver. This one being Carnell Tate, who had a remarkable season, career high in receiving yards this past year, playing alongside Jeremiah Smith. I think he might be the most pro-ready prospect in the entire class, a professional route runner. Hawk's going to love watching this guy's tape. This guy has excellent body control, terrific hands, very good on throws down the sideline because he just understands exactly where he needs to be, hit his landmarks consistently. He goes to the Washington Commanders, who, besides Terry McLaurin, have many more questions and answers at wideout. They've got other needs to address as well. But if I'm Jaden Daniels, I'm saying to myself, I saw what life looked like this year when Terry McLaurin was out. We need way more depth amongst our pass catchers.
Right.
Yeah, I disagree. I like Carnell Tate a lot, and they need a receiver. My gosh, it's about defense. They were 30th in defense efficiency, and just fill in the blank. And Field, you know, from Ruben Bain, David Bailey, who's ever there, just take the best pass rusher. Look, you can get a receiver other places in the draft, and this is a deep defensive end draft. But to me, like, job 1, 2, and 3 for Washington guys is defense because they really struggled, especially after they had some injuries last year.
Yeah, they're old on defense.
Yeah, I like Carnell Tate there. I think for the Washington offense, like, they need a playmaker on the outside. Yeah, there were a lot of issues, obviously defensively as well. They need a pass rush. But when you looked at Jaden Daniels from year 1 to year 2 and you broke the tape down, they had no threat on the outside. I can specifically remember the Green Bay Packers game where those DBs were sitting on every route and there was no threat down the field, which basically crippled the entirety of their offense. With Carnell Tate in the lineup, it now gives you that opportunity. The defense have to play you honest. And for Jaden Daniels in year 3, this is going to be the most pivotal year of his career because he's going to have a bounce back.
All right, let's talk about that offense. Okay, so Washington enters the offseason with the 7th most projected cap space. This is according to Roster Management System. They have several notable free agents on offense. Okay, they have Austin Eckler, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, right? Talk about some older veterans there. Dan Quinn also talked about changing the offense with the departure of Cliff Kingsbury. This was yesterday.
This is going to be like an aggressive, balanced attack, but like that will probably have more under center than we have in the past. That's also for run action and play passes to generate explosive plays. And so we're going to try to feature every part of Jaden in the way that makes him unique and special. But also the run action and the runs and the play action game that goes with it.
All right, so Hawk, they promote David Blau to offensive coordinator. How do you like this move?
I mean, everything I've heard about David Blau is that he's a head coach in the making. Like, he's a savant, especially as it comes to offensive football. I like what he's talking about getting Jaden Daniels under center more.
You do like that.
I do like it because it allows your run game to, like you said, be more balanced. It gets your running back going downhill so that it does contribute to more explosives. It also allows you to do a bunch in the play action game where it's a lot more convincing. Defenses and safeties have to play you more straight up, have to play you honest. And then you talk about the nakeds and boots. Getting Jaden Daniels outside the pocket with misdirection creates a bunch of opportunities, but that's his skill set and his special thing he's very, very special with. So I like the idea of it because it takes the pressure off of the quarterback. And as I said, in year 3, this can't fully sit on his shoulders.
I love David Blau because it's the best of both worlds. It's the continuity and the building on the success that Jaden Daniels had, but it's a lot of fresh ideas. And I love two-back run play action because what that does is it can give you 7-man protection and it'll let you get the ball down the field. Like, job 1, 2, and 3 is to keep Jaden Daniels healthy and get him through 17 games. And David Blau has some of the Detroit influence. And you heard what Coach Quinn talked about. This will make this offense a lot harder to defend. And sometimes people misconstrue under center with being lack of explosive. I agree with Hawk. It's just the opposite. this is going to make them much harder to defend.
I'll say this, too. Like, Jayden Daniels, for all the things that are changing around him, he just got to play better, too, this year compared to where he was last season. There were some circumstances that definitely hindered that. Offensive line was inconsistent at times, injuries amongst his pass catchers. He was hurt as well. Clearly, some sort of chasm in play calling because of the fact that the team moved on from Cliff Kingsbury. I just don't know that Jayden Daniels was quite as sharp. I do know, actually. He wasn't quite as sharp to me in 2025 as he was in 2024 when he took the league by storm.
Wow, just 30 years old, right? We were talking about how young he is.
30. Wow.
And Jayden's taken less than 4% of his career snaps under center in the NFL. It'll be really interesting. Let's go. Still to come, Fields makes a head-turning choice for Kansas City in his latest mock draft. This is my favorite choice. Somebody